Looking for a guaranteed way to create content that resonates with your audience? Start a podcast. Interview your ideal clients and let them choose the topic of the interview. Because if your ideal clients care about the topic, there's a good chance the rest of your audience will care about it too. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to B2B Growth. I'm your host for today's episode, Logan Lyles with Sweetfish Media. I've got with me today Brianna Valleskey. She is the Senior Content Marketing Manager over at Sendoso, and my new friend. Bri, how you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on today, Logan.
Oh, this is fantastic. I'm really excited to be talking about how B2B brands can win on Instagram. You guys have been experimenting and doing a lot of good things there lately. So excited to dive into that today. For folks who aren't familiar with you guys over at Sendoso or don't know you personally, give us a little background on yourself and what you and the team at Sendoso are up to these days, Bri.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll start by giving a little background on Sendoso and then back up into what I do here. Basically, at Sendoso, we exist to solve a modern problem. I think we're all feeling this sense of digital overwhelm right now. All of these ads, notifications, apps are happening in the digital world through screens, Black Mirror. And it's all very abstract. And we are humans. We live in the physical world. Research shows that people value something they can touch more highly than something they can only see. And even though marketing and sales teams are spending so much time on things like email, digital ads, but direct mail is actually easier to understand. It's far more persuasive, better response rates, and it makes sense. Like everyone hates email. I hate managing my inbox on a day-to-day basis. It's a beast and it's just a pain in the butt. But people really love receiving packages. And it's not just sales and marketing teams, but like customer success, HR, and other people in companies, executives are finding ways to really rise above the noise and build better relationships with their audiences and the people that are important to their business in tangible ways. But this is where Sendoso comes in, because enacting out these types of tactile outreach is hard. Like it's hard to source quality items and work with the vendor who's not going to send you 100 broken mugs. It's hard to personalize all of that outreach. I mean, imagine writing like 100 handwritten notes and then packing 100 boxes and then getting those 100 boxes to FedEx. It's a pain in the butt. I've had to do that as a marketer in my career. It's hard to manage your swag closet in real life. It's hard to measure the ROI of that stuff. Yep. So that's why we built Sendoso. We are a sending platform. So that means that we source, store, ship, and measure ROI for anything a business wants to send. And when I say that, I mean anything like direct mail, video mailers, personalized gifts, plants, succulents, flowers, wine, sweet treats, handwritten notes. I mean, we can make pretty much anything happen. And so, we have marketers who are integrating direct mail directly into their campaigns. We have integrations across your tech stack. So whatever marketing automation platform you're using, we can integrate into it. Same thing with like CRM. That's how we get all these like ROI and impressive reporting, customer success, the rewarding customers, HR, welcome kits for employees. So it's just this powerful solution that we're enabling sending at scale for any company.
Very exciting stuff. I mean, you've got to rise above the noise. Sometimes you have to go where it isn't as noisy, right? And 10, 20 years ago, direct mail was very crowded and email was not. Gary Vee talks about, he won on email and search when those weren't as crowded. That's not where he's winning today. So anyhow, I love the way that you put some background there. So one of the things that you guys have been doing, and you and your team specifically lately, Bri, is branching out a little bit. As we mentioned, you are working on the content team there at Sendoso. So taking everything that you guys do in the physical world and communicating that to your audience, which is B2B marketers, in a digital world at the same time. And one of the areas that you guys have recently expanded into is Instagram. So back up for us. Tell us a little bit about the thinking there, why you guys decided to invest and spend time doing Instagram. And then I think we're going to unpack some lessons learned and some tips for folks there. But I think, there are a lot of B2B marketers that I talked to that said, yep, LinkedIn's number one, which we're all over LinkedIn. And I don't think any of us are, flocking to Instagram to reach B2B audiences and leaving LinkedIn, but there can be some really big benefits to layering on another channel that is growing. So tell us a little bit about the thought process that went in to starting on Instagram for you guys.
Yeah, totally. 100%. As the content manager here, I'm in charge of all content strategy and execution. And although we enable this physical aspect in your marketing and sales campaigns, we do truly believe in an omni-channel approach. So yeah, we preach physical, but of course we're on digital. That's how you create that consistent experience for your buyer. So when I joined Sendoso, my role is in charge of blogs, videos, infographics. We're multi-channel, multimedia. So we decided to start our Instagram account about 8 months ago. I know in all of the roles I run into, people are always like, we're a business. Why do we need Instagram? And the answer is that, yeah, we're a business and you might be selling to other businesses, but really you're selling to the humans in those businesses. And humans are very visual creatures. Out of all of our senses, sight is the one we tend to utilize and rely on the most. And that's why Instagram makes so much sense. That's why it's becoming the most popular social media platform. It's all visual. And this is coming from a content marketer. I'm a diehard writer and storyteller, and I will argue to my last breath, about how words can change the world. But that does not mean that I can ignore how important visual storytelling is as well.
Very, very well said. As someone with a journalism background, I can relate there. So tell us a little bit, for folks that have agreed with you and said, hey, we sell B2B, but we see Instagram is growing. We've tried there. What are some of the common pitfalls or some of the things that you've seen that have made it hard for you guys starting out, or you see other people struggling with B2B marketers trying to build a presence for their brand on Instagram?
Yeah, absolutely. I think conceptually, where a lot of B2B marketers struggle is that they think of Instagram as more of a consumer platform. So, when you're on Instagram, you're scrolling through, seeing your best friend on the beach, and then your dad, falling off the hammock or whatever. And then you don't really expect to have something interrupted with a promo to demo a piece of software. You're like, oh, leave me alone. This is me in my personal life, as opposed to something like LinkedIn, where it's purely a social media channel for business activities. So I think for a lot of marketers, it feels almost counterintuitive to focus on Instagram as a platform. And in addition, for a lot of B2B companies, especially software companies, software is also a very abstract concept and not something people really expect or want to see pictures of when they're scrolling through their feeds. In the past, I've struggled with trying to try lead gen tactics, using creative promo for content and events, and have never really seen it, especially if you're trying to do images to get people to download ebooks or take a demo of your product. That's not where the success of Instagram comes in at all. You can't think about it like a traditional lead gen channel in the same way where you could promote a ton of your ebooks on LinkedIn or Twitter and still get downloads from there. So I think that's where people struggle, is that you have to take a totally different approach. And what I have seen that works is bringing in that human element, because you've just the businesses that you're selling to, those have humans that you're selling to in them. You also, in reverse, have to show that you're not just a faceless business selling to people, that you are just a tribe of humans all working toward that same collective goal. So things that I have seen work, and then I'll dive more into this as the conversation develops, is that, taking pictures of your team at a trade show booth to drive traffic. to that booth at the event. So maybe you're not directly collecting leads from the lead form, but you're informing people of what's happening to them and encouraging them to engage with you. And if you go to Sendoso's Instagram, you'll see we do this all the time. We're very big on events. I mean, creating those human connections is part of our ethos. And I think that's also probably why we have this very specific approach to Instagram. Or even something like a picture of a person holding a physical copy of an ebook and then saying something like, check out the link in our bio to get your free digital copy. So you can still engage in brand awareness, demand generation, but maybe it's not going to be the exact same workflow that you're used to.
Mm-hmm. I love that example. It's a small tweak of like a normal promo graphic that we might put with an ebook or some sort of downloadable on Twitter or something like that. But because you're used to seeing faces, you're used to seeing visuals of humans very, very large. I mean, I know there's some, pull quote sort of stuff on Instagram, but you're seeing faces. And if you can kind of match that with, example as you laid out there of a human holding a physical copy of an ebook, that's interesting to me. What are some brands that you see that are succeeding on Instagram that you've picked up some strategies or tactics or just that you have admired as you've looked into building your Instagram strategy at Sendoso, Bri?
Yeah, absolutely. There are so many that I see doing it so well. And then there are also so many that I see struggling with this kind of transition. Pendo.io is one that comes to mind immediately. I saw them do this really cute campaign. It might have been last year where they let each of their employees take over the Instagram account for a day or a week and talk about, a day in the life of that employee. Obviously, they're talking about work stuff at Pendo and not their personal lives or anything. But that was one way to really add the human element in there, because then people also just treated it like their regular Instagram account, taking pictures of people and places and things. So that came off as very natural. And you're getting to know the people behind the company. Sigster is another one. One of my favorite things they do is intros for their office dogs. And and we know dogs always do well on social media. They also do a ton of pictures of their team members, both posed photos where it's a group shot and candid photos, which I think it's super important to have a mix of those. And you can see their brand color everywhere. If you just go to their page, it colors green and their whole profile feels green. And so those are two software companies that I've seen do it really well. And then an agency that we actually work with, they're called KCPR, that's our PR team, shows a lot of the places that they visit, as a team. They have these really artsy photos of coffee shops or co-working spaces. So it's just these really beautiful pictures, but is also showing how their business is up and about and meeting all these different people and being in all these different places.
Yeah, those are such great examples. Sigster, I love what they've been doing. I've been following them on Instagram for a while. Those are two other great examples for other B2B marketers to take a look at. The employee takeover makes me think of what we've seen sports teams do before. A lot of folks know I'm a huge Broncos fan, and I've seen, I don't know if it's their Instagram account, maybe this was Twitter a while back, but they had team members take over. I think Von Miller took over one of the Broncos social media accounts, and other teams have done that sort of stuff. So let's look at what's working in direct to consumer and replicate that in B2B. And, we talk about that a lot in theory, but I think you laid out some really good examples about how we can actually do that specifically for Instagram here. If there are folks listening to this, Bri, that are just getting started, they're struggling, or they're on the fence about jumping into Instagram and adding that to their social media repertoire for their B2B brand, what advice would you give them based on what you guys have seen over the past 8 months or so?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so getting started, I think everyone should at least test it out. I mean, we're all marketers. We're all about testing and optimization. So you're never going to know if it's going to work for you or not. And really my argument also for testing it out is it doesn't cost money. It might cost you a little bit of time, but it's a really worthwhile experiment if you do. And in terms of experimenting, I would say run it for at least 3 to 6 months, post once a week. It's not asking a ton. And then after that trial period, take a look at your top 10, 20 posts from that time. And when I say top, I mean based on engagement numbers of engagement. And in terms of like measuring social media success, I just count engagements as any action item. So like, share, or comment.
Mhm.
Um, and then rank them and then go through and start making like observations about the traits of these most successful posts you had. Like, what was the topic? Was it a company culture post? Was it a holiday or like timely post? Was it an announcement? Was it an event action shot? Also look at like, what kind of language, punctuation, or hashtags did we use? Did we use
Mhm.
exclamation points? Were there emojis? And then any other parts of the post that might stick out to you, such as whether like other people or companies were tagged.
Mhm.
And then, look for common themes. We did this and we found that our culture posts, our company announcements, and then what we call direct mail ideas
Mhm.
perform the best for us. And obviously, since we're a sending platform, we show these beautiful pictures of these boxes and treats and plants and things that we're able to send through our platform.
Tell us a little bit there, because I forgot to ask earlier, Bree, what
Sure.
was kind of the mixture for you guys of stories versus posts? Was every post then part of a story? Just some of those things that people are probably thinking through. Where do I get started? And that's probably one of the big decisions you got to think about, or at least try and experiment with on Instagram, right?
Totally. Yeah. And one of my tips for laters is going to be, do try to do stories when you can. We do stories when we have events or when
Okay.
we're like celebrating a team, like not necessarily the day to day stuff, but something that is going to be more aesthetically pleasing in a video format. So if people are moving around or you're showing off something really colorful or new, but like, for example, I wouldn't do a story of, just a Thursday in the office. And then for events too, any type of like bigger traction thing, we do a story and a regular post, but we do much, much more regular posts than we do stories because stories are great, but they are ephemeral. Whereas,
Mhm.
those posts live on your Instagram feed forever. And that's something that you want people to see. You want, customers, prospects, you want investors to see that, especially for, when you mentioned talking about taking what's worked for consumer companies, like
Mhm.
a lot of B2B companies, we don't have a storefront. So social media and our websites and these digital platforms are a storefront. These are how people learn about us. These are people who have experiences with us. So
Okay.
we focus more on posts, but we do like to incorporate a little bit of stories when we can.
I love that super tactical advice on stories and posts and thinking through the implications there, Bree. What other things have you guys found that other B2B marketers should be thinking about when it comes to Instagram?
I mean, the first one is just like you want to look like an organic part of people's Instagram feeds. So like imagine your company was an actual person who wanted to share their life on social media, or treat your company Instagram feed not much different than your personal Instagram feed. Another thing is like brand. Like, do try to get your logo, your colors, your swag in as much as you can, but without overdoing it. Obviously, you don't want to seem like you're shamelessly self-promoting. Gong is another company that's really great at this. They have a really defensible brand. It's like this bright purple pink comic book kind of style, and it's very easily recognizable. So even when you just see like the pink background of a wall in their Instagram photo, you're like, oh, that's Gong. Showing a lot of people and animals, especially in software, because like I said, your audience wants to know that there are people behind those digital interfaces they use every day. We're human. We want to connect with other humans. Another thing is celebrations work really well. Celebrate everything on your Instagram. Like, we just posted something about how our SDR team overachieved on quota for the month of July. Like, even small victories, people love to share in your accomplishments, and it's a great way to tell the story of your momentum of your company. So anything
Mhm.
like company milestones, product announcements, stuff like that. And then finally, post things that involve other companies and tag them. I mean, obviously, anytime you're going to tag someone else, it increases the shareability and the engagement with the posts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's phenomenal. Anything else you guys have thought about as far as personal Instagram accounts from individuals on your team? Our team has started to do that more. We have, my own personal feed. James has his, and then we have one for our podcast as well as the company. And something that comes to mind is, Ryan Benici at G2. His personal Instagram is very interesting to follow, and it's somewhat personal, but it's also celebrating stuff that's going on with the company as well. So what are your thoughts there on not only treating treating the company Instagram account like a personal one, but the way your team members can leverage theirs if they're willing to, and how those can play off each other.
Yeah, that is a great question. So the number one thing I like to think of is like, I don't want to force it. If someone's really good and really active on Instagram, then we are just kind of like, oh, let's like maybe incorporate some things in here. But I really want it to all feel organic. So while we do highlight the thought leadership profiles of our team members by bringing them on podcasts and webinars and having them write guest blogs anywhere, I do still want them to feel like they have independence in terms of their own social feeds. So, and if they're, I mean, we're very lucky that a lot of our employees are very excited about our job and feel very engaged. So they're just like organically posting these wonderful things about our company themselves. So I think if you can facilitate that word of mouth marketing, but I never want to like force someone to post about their company on their social media feed.
Everybody feels it when that's not done right. So that is a very good word of caution there. But I think, there's as with anything where there are opportunities, there are pitfalls. And I think you pointed out both opportunities and pitfalls when it comes to Instagram in a variety of areas there. So Bri, as you and I have talked about, at Sweetfish, one of our core values here is never stop learning. So now that I've picked your brain specifically on Instagram for B2B brands today, I would love for you to share with listeners a learning resource that has you excited. That could be something marketing or work related, or just personal development, a podcast, a book, or anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big time learner. I'm a huge nerd. So there are 3 areas, I guess I'd say, that I primarily focus on. One is mentors and colleagues. I love like real time learning about like how people are dealing with these types of issues in their B2B marketing campaigns, or what's something really creative and unique that they've done recently, because that's going to be like the most fresh and recent information. Like that's what's new. By the time something gets printed into a book, it's probably like 3, 6, 12 months old. So that's how I love to stay up to date. We have a lot of like work events that we all go to. And so it's just great to meet with other people and talk about what they're focusing on and their strategy. So I would highly encourage that. Because I know networking is kind of a word that makes you gag. So I like to call it like in-person learning or like knowledge sharing or something. I'm a big conference person too. I love going to conferences and listen to people speak about what they've been doing. That's kind of like in the same line as mentors and colleagues. And I mean, like I'm also someone with a journalism background. So I'm a huge book nerd. I love all sorts of different types of books. One that I found really, really incredible that I read recently is called The 4 Disciplines of Execution. I highly recommend this book to everyone. Another one that I'm just going to start reading is it's like a strengths finder book. It's like strengths-based leadership. So those are some like fantastic resources that have really helped reshape the way I operate and provided me with so many like tactical insights into just how to be more efficient, more effective, and overall better at everything that we're doing.
Yeah, 4 Disciplines of Execution, or anyone who knows of that methodology or book knows it as 4DX, as we do here at Sweetfish. We did that as one of our book club books a couple of months ago, and it was very enlightening how you get to the results that you're trying to look at, which everybody measures the lag measures, but they don't look at the leading indicators, the lead measures that show you, are you on track or not? So that's phenomenal. Strength-based leadership is one that I've got saved somewhere in my Kindle list or something. Haven't gotten to that one yet, but I'm sure that's great as well. So thank you for sharing that. Bri, I know that everyone listening to this is going to want to stay connected with you. What's the best ways for them to do that? Stay in touch with you, Sendoso, follow along with what you guys have going on over there.
Yeah, totally. So I'm on LinkedIn. It's just Brianna Valleskey. I'm on Twitter. It's at BRI_ my last name, which is Valleskey. Feel free to shoot me a LinkedIn message, connect with me on Twitter, or shoot me an email, brianna@sendoso.com. We're actually hiring for some roles within our company. So feel free to shoot a message my way for anyone who's interested in joining just a really amazing team.
Awesome. I love it, Bri. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing with listeners today.
Yeah, thanks so much, Logan.
We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big Three, a no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.